Well, hello, folks. It's the man behind the curtain once again with a reading, short reading. I want to share some wisdom with you, and this topic is going to be restore the Constitution we have by learning what it means. So anyways, this is another beautiful article by the unknown Publius. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and start and share this wisdom with you. So enjoy. Our Constitution really was a 5,000-year miracle. The attached PDF chart illustrates the miracle. You can download it and print it out. Rights come from God, and the purpose of civil governments is to secure the rights God gave us. Accordingly, we the people ordained and established the Constitution for the United States of America, wherein we created the federal government. A federal government is an alliance of sovereign states associated together in a federation with a national government to which is delegated supremacy over the states in specifically defined areas only. And that'll be talking about the list of the enumerated powers. And every provision and declared rights in all the constitutions are in harmony. If you read Montana's Declaration of Rights, it has the provision in there that's basically saying that the listed enumerated rights are not forbid for change. You can't, in so many words I'm paraphrasing, they're not forbid. You can't change it. There's no way to change it. It says that in Arkansas one, it says that in Oregon one, Idaho one. They all got the enumerated provision or the declared rights under that provisions. So again, in specifically defined areas only. So a federal government is an alliance of sovereign states associated together in a federation with a national government to which it delegated supremacy over the states in specifically defined areas only, as long as they're in harmony. These specifically defined areas are the enumerated powers. We delegated to the three branches of the national federal government. The states and the people retained all other powers. The PDF chart depicts the elegant simplicity of our Constitution. Lists the few and defined powers we delegated to the national government for the country at large. Shows how the powers we delegated to the national government secure specific God-given rights, and shows the retention of all other powers by the states and the people. So again, you can argue all day who was first, who was created first, but it all comes from the people, comes from the state, and again, the states got together and agreed on how they were going to govern the people, and by agreement, and it was a compact agreement called the Ironclad Contract, which is the Constitution at a supreme level, the supremacy, the Constitution of the United States of America, which is for all the states in harmony. And guess what? Each state has its own constitution, and it's in harmony with all the sister states and the Supreme Constitution. That's what's so fabulous about it. So if you get things that are changed, the constructive fraud stands out like a sore thumb when it's not in harmony with all the others. So all you got to do is get the majority of the 30 states. Just pick 5 states. And if they're in conflict, an agreement with their constitutions, there's some constructive fraud there because some judges, lawyers, or lawmakers wrote illegal laws and screwed things up. But if you look at the ones that are in harmony, all the other ones are void. If it's in harmony, that should tell you a lot in how powerful it is. Okay. Our Constitution isn't broken. Our Constitution isn't outdated. The problem is that we, who are the natural guardians, you and I, the peasants, the poor, the masses, whoever title you name you have, of the Constitution, didn't bother to learn it. And this is why I do these videos. This is why I do these readings, because I want you guys to know so that you can take charge, lead the way, and stand for something in a godly, good, moral manner. Who are the natural guardians of the Constitution, didn't bother to learn it. Since we didn't bother to learn it, we elected representatives who also hadn't bothered to learn it. And so everyone ignores it. Everybody ignores it because they don't know what the heck it is. And we abandoned the religious and moral foundation of our Constitution. That's what I said in so many words when I elaborated on my own there. It is our own ignorance of our existing Constitution and the collapse of religion and morality which have brought us to the brink of destruction. It's true. If you read the history all the way, some stories out of the Bibles, when God was more or less ignored and taken out of their nation, the nations were destroyed. They perished. Our Constitution doesn't need fixing. The only amendments we need are to repeal some of the previous amendments we got deceived into approving. There's that trickery scheme of things to benefit those lawyers and judges and the spies from the European countries that believe that they own the American people. We, the people, need fixing, restoration of our religious and moral foundation, and our Constitution is the answer to healing of our land. Let the restoration begin with you. Share this article, print out the chart, study it, flesh it out with your own personal readings of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bible. Have study groups in your home. You can become a guardian of the Constitution. That's exactly what I did, and that's what I'm doing now, and I love it, and I enjoy it. Wisdom is power. You know what's neat? Today, I ran into a judge that actually put me on probation for 2 bad checks 13 years ago. And I ran into him today. And he just quit his bench, probably retired, I want to say about a month ago is what I heard, but I'm not sure why he retired. But anyways, this judge, I went to the store and I was grabbing something and I ran into him and I noticed he was there and I go, "Hey, Judge Langton, it's Kirkland. Can I talk to you for a minute?" And he's like a little surprised. He didn't really, he's seen me there and I had a gun, I had my hat, I looked kind of, scary, I guess. And so I approached him. I said, "Hey, Judge Langton," I said, "you're the one, how you doing, Judge?" First of all, I greeted myself. I said, Judge Langton, I said, "How you doing, sir?" I said, I want to talk to you for a minute. I said, "I wrote you a letter and I'm waiting for a response." And we elaborated on that letter, and we kind of got in a communication with back and forth on some expungement issues and a couple of case laws, and he just smiled and he enjoyed talking with me, and I enjoyed talking with him. And anyways, my point is it was a godly thing that me running into that judge, because I wrote that judge and I was waiting for an answer for him to actually execute an order. And I'm hoping he does, but he was more or less telling me in so many words that he couldn't execute the order. But I kind of told him and debated with him shortly and said, "You're the only one that has the authority to, at a national level, to fix the what comes up on somebody's record over the radio when you're traveling." Because I told him when I travel, I get treated like a criminal because of my past of 2 checks that I wrote that were felony charges. So they treat me like a felon every time it comes up on the radio. Not here at home. Right here at home, it's kind of my safe haven because I study law and they all know me, the police and the judges and the lawyers. So, and plus Montana restores, if you complete your probation under Declaration of Rights under the state level, your rights are restored automatically. Anyways, I'm getting way out there. I shared enough of that. But anyways, it was an enjoyable conversation with the judge. And it's nice to be able to talk at that kind of level with somebody that has the same kind of wisdom and knowledge of the Constitution. I really believe Judge Langton is a very good judge, even though what he did to me, it would have never happened to me in the past if I would have known what I know now, because I would have fought it, and I would have got it squashed down or quashed down to a lot lesser offense. But that's what happens when you get attorneys, and if you're ignorant of the law and the actual law, the Constitution, then it's what they say it is, and they can do anything they want to you. So again, I'm going to stress you should read the Constitution, just like this article says. Read the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the history of our nation, and so that assist and help you become more smart and be able to deal with situations with the unconstitutional acts, the repugnant laws, statutes, codes, and all the controlling substance of law, of scheme, and like I said, unconstitutional acts. But however, let me see what we can come up with next. Okay, I wonder why that shows twice. Oh, okay, that's just saying we don't need Article 5. See, because they want to change the Constitution, and I think we don't need to change the Constitution. I think we just need to read it and learn it and know it, the true intent of it, and then we'll be fine. We've got all these enemies in high positions that are ignorant, ignore it, and they're not for our nation. They're for the nation where they came from, and it's a joke. Okay, so let me pick one more to read. We're at 12 minutes here. Okay, well, since we elaborated on enumerated, I'm gonna click on the president's enumerated powers. I don't know if I read this one or not yet. Let's see what it looks like when it comes up, and I'll share it with you. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read this as recess appointments by the president, what our Constitution really says. Okay, again, this is by Publius, the unknown person that wrote this, but actually I know what she looks like and who she is, and she's just a little tiny petite little lady that studied law and decided not to join the bar and go on her own way to fight against the lawyers and the truth and the true intent. So Publius, again, here we go. It goes, much misinformation about the Constitution is put out by those who seek to circumvent its clear provisions. Circumvent. C-I-R-C-U-M-V-E-N-T. So circumvent. Okay, circumvent its clear provisions. Okay. In Peter Schroeder's recent article in The Hill, he reports that David Arkush, Director of Public Citizens, Congress Watch Division, makes two arguments which Arkush claims permit the president to make a recess appointment of someone. Richard Cardray, whose nomination has already been blocked by the Senate, Arkush reportedly claimed that Article 2, Section 3 U.S. Constitution allows the president to force the House and Senate to adjourn, and then, pursuant to Article 2, Section 2, last clause, he would be permitted to make a recess appointment of his rejected nominee. Wow. Arkush's next claim is that the 20th Amendment states that Congress shall assemble at least once a year, with each session beginning on January 3rd. Arkush says that in order to be able to start a session on January 3rd, Congress would have to have stopped a previous session. And between the stopping of the old and the starting of the new, the president may slip in there and make a recess appointment of his rejected nominee. Wow, that's kind of cool to know that. So there, Trump or whoever's president at this time, I think at this time, I'm not sure what the date was, but any president has the ability to do that if he wants to, especially if he knows it. If he doesn't know, then he doesn't know. But I'm hoping Trump knows. but it seems like they're giving him problems with all the nominees that he's chosen, but they're getting through. It's just taking time. So, rubbish. So let us see how easy it is to look things up in our Constitution. You do not have to settle for the rubbish spewed by others and uncritically reported by journalists. You don't want to believe journalists in the news media. They're the enemies of the United States. They're just like some of the attorneys. Well, most attorneys. I've only met one attorney so far in the 7 years that I've been studying. Okay, I take that back. Two attorneys that are willing to actually help people. And I don't know if it's because I was there as a third-party overwatch, and there is the reason why they did that. But one attorney did compliment me one time on a case. He said the remarks one time we were in the office and we were discussing the client's issues, and I wrote up some documents for the client to give to the attorney. And he read them over, and he goes, "Mr. Kirkland," he goes, "I sure wish there were more people like you." And I just smiled big. I was like happy because it made me feel like, even though I'm against all the attorneys, that he was pulling me in to reassure me a good feeling, that I'm doing good, and it just made my day when he said, "I wish there was more people like you." Well, anyways, I'm not going to elaborate on that. But anyways, let's see. Okay, it says, "So let us see how easy it is to look things up in our Constitution. You do not have to settle for the rubbish spewed by others and uncritically reported by the journalists. You can find out for yourself what our Constitution really says. You can, just like I did. Study it. It takes a lot of reading and a lot of research, but it's really easy. So you got to pull the constructive fraud back, that's for sure. Okay, look it up in our Constitution. First, what does our Constitution say about presidential appointments? Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2 says, okay, this is Article 2, Section 2, Clause says, "He shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers, and consults, judges, and Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper, and the President alone," emphasis is added. Do you see? The constitutional scheme is that the President nominates, the Senate confirms or rejects the President's nomination. This is the check which our Constitution imposes on the President's nominations. The purpose is to protect us from the loons, incompetents, or toadies whom various presidents have from time to time nominated. Outstanding. We're about 18 minutes and 16 seconds into this read. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate, by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. Emphasis added. Do you see? The vacancy must have happened at a time when the Senate was already in recess, so the President may not properly circumvent the Senate's constitutionality granted power to reject his nominations by means of cheap gimmicks such as forcing the Congress to adjourn, or by waiting until Congress is in recess to appoint someone whom the Senate has already refused to approval. Wow. Hope you guys are understanding this. Check it out. In the Federalist Papers are authoritative on the genuine meaning of our Constitution. So, you always want to see what they say about any clause in our Constitution. Here is an online edition of the Federalist Papers. So she's asking you to read the Federalist Papers again. That's where the true intent of the Constitution is, in the Federalist Papers, and in the prior constitutions, in the line of succession, and enabling clauses. Okay, so with searchable text, if you type in recess, you will get hits for the Federalist Papers which use that term. Throughout Federalist Papers, throughout Federalist number 76 Alexander Hamilton explains the reason for the constitutional provisions requiring nominations by the President to be submitted to the Senate for their approval or disapproval. In the last 3 paragraphs, Hamilton points out that the Constitution requires the cooperation of the Senate's appointments in order to check the President and to prevent the appointment of an unfit characters, and that the necessity of the Senate's cooperation in the business of appointments will be a considerable and solitary restraint upon the conduct of the magistrate, the President. Wow. We're in the 20 minutes here. Okay, we're going to have to close here in a minute. I'll read a little bit more on. Now, let us see what the Federalist Papers say about recess appointments. In Federalist number 67, so read Federalist 67. Next to last paragraph, Hamilton is very clear that Article 2, Section 2, last clause, means what it says. The ordinary power of appointments is confined to the President and Senate jointly and can therefore only be exercised during the session of the Senate, but as it would have been improper to oblige this body to be continually in a session for the session for the appointment of the officers and the vacancies might happen in their recess, which it might be necessary for the public service to fill without delay. The succeeding clause is evidently intended to authorize the President singly to make the temporary appointments during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. Wow. Do you see? Article 2, Section 2, last clause means exactly what it says. Before this clause even kicks in, the vacancy must have happened while the Senate was in recess. So the Constitution requires the President to submit his nominations to the Senate for their approval. A President who disbands Congress so that he can circumvent the constitutional provisions which grant to the Senate the power to reject the President's nominations is a usurper and a tyrant who should be promptly impeached and removed from office. If the Senate rejects any nomination, the President may not circumvent that rejection by unconstitutional gimmicks, such as those proposed by Arkish. If people wish to show how clever, creative, or original they are, then they should write a novel. When applying our Constitution, we must display only obedience. Now you know how to look things up in our Constitution and check it out in the Federalist Papers, political consultants, journalists, TV pundits, talk show hosts, candidates for our office, people in Congress, and the executive branch, and sitting on federal benches don't know how to do this. So you must do it and spread the word if we are to restore our constitutional republic. Wow, fascinating. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Went in a little longer to read than I thought. I want to say thank you for listening again. I love you guys. And I want to throw in there, put me in your prayers. Keep me in your thoughts. And I hope people do read this. If not, read it briefly and take the wisdom and investigate into the Federalist Papers like Publius was saying. You'll find out a lot in the true intent of the Constitution. So I want to say thank you. God bless you. I love you. God bless America. And God bless Trump.